morning and welcome to a Wednesday edition of Baseball in January. Well, baseball talk in January. First of all, can everybody hear us okay up here? Is the room, I have a voice that is not a whisper, so I know I can be heard, but we'll get to our real guest here in just a minute. Are there some Guardians fans in the room tonight? It looks like a little potpourri here, mostly I'd say 99% Guardians. And the reason why we have one of the voices of the Cleveland Guardians radio network, Jim Rosenhaus, is with us. We're going to get to Jim in a moment. First of all, our thanks to Corey and Terry Humbarger. We're at a new location. And by the way, an extra, hold your applause because they are celebrating their wedding anniversary today. And for Terry to be 31 years with this guy is like more than a trophy and anything else, right? Because I grew up with Corey and know what that would have been like. It's been tough 40-some years as a friend, let alone 31 years living together. But we really appreciate them hosting us tonight. It's a new location. Toby Shirkey is here tonight from Darryl Shirkey. They're helping sponsor this tonight, along with Maddox Men's Emporium, Amerimaid Realty, D&M Tire and Service, Best One Tire, Jacobs Meats, and Brian Ford Lincoln. We are going to adjust my level. I didn't think I would be the mic that would need to be adjusted, but we'll adjust that level just a little bit. Now we can welcome in Jim Rosenhaus. How are you?
Great, Andy. Great to see you again.
Good to see you. I missed last year, missed seeing you last year. Now, from last year when you were here in January to where we are right now, did the Guardians have any kind of fun season? Did anything unexpected happen in 2020?
Very unexpected, absolutely. Just a great run through the postseason. I know there's some Tiger fans here. Thank you for making the postseason entertaining as all heck. And it could lead to some really good stuff this year, too, because they're putting together a great team. And I know the Guardians are really optimistic that they can keep it rolling. So, but yeah, out of nowhere, because new manager and, you know, they were coming off a season where things didn't go well. So for them to win a division again and come within a couple of games of the World Series, I think was completely unexpected by many, maybe not in the clubhouse to start the year, but I think by a lot of fans.
When you were here last year, Jim, and you guys were in spring training and breaking for going back to Cleveland and to start the season, I mean, you guys in the booth, I mean, what really were expectations? What was realistic in your mind?
You didn't know, and I think mainly because for the first time in 11 years there was a new manager. Terry Francona had stepped down, and Stephen Vogt, who hadn't managed anywhere at any level, was only 1 year removed from playing, got the job, and everyone, I think obviously they went through the interview process, and you trust the front office that they made a good decision, but nobody knew what to expect, and there were some new coaches as a part of it. So I think you just kind of thought they might be decent because of some of the players coming back, but you really didn't know. So this time a year ago, a lot of question marks that needed to be answered. And even early in spring training, some injuries cropped up in the bullpen, and you just thought, how are they going to piece this thing together? And the bullpen turned out to be one of the biggest positive parts of the team. So I think that's the beauty of baseball. Sometimes you just never know, and you just let a season play out. Shoot, if you're a Tiger fan, at the end of July, you probably figured it was business as usual, and they weren't going to do much, and then all of a sudden they're in the postseason and playing great baseball. So it's the beauty of the game, and it was really fun a year ago.
Stephen Vogt as manager, what does he do so well, and what did he do so well with this particular group?
You know, Andy, I think one of his first press conferences, he said, look, there's a ton of stuff I don't know, and it would be crazy for me to come in here and just say, yeah, that's my way or the highway. I think in looking back on it, I think he took the best of Tito, and that is the player relationship part of it. Being available for his players, trying to put them in the best position to win, being there for them even when the news isn't good. You know, if a player is being pulled from the lineup or even sent down to the minor leagues, just being honest with them. So he was really good at that. And then I think he delegated to his coaches extremely well in areas that maybe he was trying to catch up on in terms of being a major league manager, most notably the pitching staff. He had a veteran pitching coach in Carl Willis, and he leaned on him heavily, and it really worked well. So he was good at letting everybody get involved, and he's just super positive. they had a stretch in August where things weren't going well and the lead slipped away to nothing. They had the lead most of the season in the division, and all of a sudden it was up for grabs. And he managed to stay positive with his team, let them get through a rough stretch, and they pulled out of it and played good baseball down the stretch.
Does that come from playing days more than anything else, you think, when you said, like, I guess talking about the August run specifically, and knowing how he liked maybe to be managed?
I think so. You know, he wasn't that far removed from how hard the game can be for a player, especially the length of the season. And August is when it can crop up on you, especially if you're a young player. So I think being that close to his playing career, he could identify extremely well with what most every player was going through. And the other part of it was, you look at his playing career, and there were some all-star games. He won a World Series when he was with Atlanta, but it took him a long time to get to the major leagues. He spent a lot of time in the minor leagues, and he could identify with those guys who are scraping just to stay in the big leagues, as well as your star players too. So there was a lot of background there that was really, really helpful for him.
Plus, Jim, let's face it, the blueprint didn't go as planned. I mean, you lose a Shane Bieber, you lose. I mean, I'm just using that as an example, and you go through that starting pitching, so you're working your way down. And by the time the postseason rolled around, how many starters were they using in the postseason?
Pretty much Tanner Bybee and Matthew Boyd, and they strung together some others, but the key was the bullpen. They used the bullpen more than I'm sure they had planned on from day one, except when Bieber was pitching. He made 2 starts and was great, but and it's kind of where the game's going. I think the days of 7, 8 innings starting pitchers are fading, at least for now. Teams seem to really rely on their bullpen, and they get to it in a hurry as soon as the starter starts to have a hard time, and that's what the Guardians did a year ago. They really leaned on their bullpen, and it proved to be a good way to go.
How big did it become that the AL Central improved so much and helped Cleveland go on, moving forward into the postseason?
It was great. I mean, we were, at this event a year ago, for years the Central Division was a one playoff team. But last year it was Cleveland, and then Detroit and Kansas City made it, and they were all in the running, especially the Guardians and Royals, for winning the division for most of the season, and the Twins were in there for a little bit, so it really became a fun. I mean, you don't like to be choosy about if you're winning by how much, but a lot of years the division was wrapped up by the start of September. You kind of knew, but not last year. It was fun. It was fun to have a pennant race that went down the last week of the season.
Okay, I know it's not, we've already mentioned him, and I know it's not a Cleveland-related question right now, but I have to ask you, since you got to know him so well and then saw him deal with so many health issues and then step aside, how big of a surprise that Terry Francona's back and with the Cincinnati Reds?
More so with the Reds. That he's back, no.
He's a lifer, right? Probably right.
I think so, yeah. I mean, the guy, baseball's in his blood. It has been. I mean, his dad was a great player for such a long time, and I think Tito was at the ballpark when he was still in diapers. So for him to not be in the game was probably odd for him, but he needed to step away when he did. And, he left Cleveland on good terms. It just was a point in time where, as he said down the stretch in his last season of 2023, he just couldn't do the job physically the way it needs to be done. The energy that you need to be there every day for your players, he just couldn't do it. And he said he was leaning too much on his coaches. He was getting short with people just because of the health ailments and things like that. And he didn't want to, that's not the way to go for him. So he took some time off, got his health issues squared away as best as he can. I saw him last summer toward the end of the season at our golf outing in August, and he looked great. He was Tito funny, looking good and all that kind of stuff. And so I thought if the right job opened up that he would get back in the game. I didn't think it'd be Cincinnati, though. Maybe just because I didn't think the Reds would make a change at the end of the season. But what a great opportunity for him. And I think it shows. I thought he'd come back maybe with a large market team again, go back to that type of situation. But when you look at it, he really enjoyed his time with Cleveland. 11 years, it allowed him to I think, enjoy the game. Then, I mean, there were certain pressures in Boston that you just don't have in Cleveland, he won't have in Cincinnati. and I think it allowed him to just be a good major league manager and not worry about some of the side stuff that he had to in Boston. And he really enjoyed his time here. So when you think about it, Cincinnati may be the perfect fit for him, and it's a really good team that I think underachieved a year ago. They won't underachieve this year with Tito at the helm. That'll be a good ball club.
Just getting started here. We're going to jump into 2025. I have some questions already. If anybody has some questions for Jim, we have paper up here, pens that you can come up and jot them down and leave them for us, and we'll make sure we get to as many as we can to ask Jim. We want to kind of spin forward to 2025. First, we need to take a break, and when we come back, we'll start talking about the 2025 season, off-season into 2025. It's a night with Jim Rosenhaus from the Guardians Radio Network at Drop Time Winery and Tap House here on B-Rock.
At Bryan Ford, we have a nice selection of local trade-ins, most of them with just one previous owner. Our inventory includes many vehicles priced under $20,000. Bryan Ford just traded for 3 2021 Ford Edges. All are one owner, very well equipped, and priced from $24,000. With interest rates falling, it's a great time to buy a pre-owned vehicle. And we didn't forget our new vehicles. With rebates to $5,000, combined with generous discounts and low interest rates, it's a great time to buy new or used. At Bryan Ford, we will not be undersold. You have my word on it.
The Maddox Men's Emporium is the go-to place in Northwest Ohio for men's apparel and accessories, as well as specialty foods and barware. They feature items like cocktail bitters and drink mixers, cocktail smokers, barbecue sauces, hot sauces, and dry rubs, plus Bloody Mary mixes and margarita mixes. They also have game day items from some of your favorite Big Ten teams. And if you want the best men's apparel around, the Maddox has Task Bamboo Wear, Johnston and Murphy Clothing and shoes, Liverpool jeans, Devil Dog, FX Fusion, Jeep brand, and more. If you haven't been to the Maddox Men's Emporium yet, then stop by at 123 South Main Street in downtown Bryan and see what you've been missing.
Best One Tire and Service of Bryan has an experienced, knowledgeable team just like the Cleveland Guardians. Whether it's tires or mechanical work for your commercial, passenger, or light truck vehicle, we're the team that always hits a home run. We can even score with tires for your ag or OTR applications. Come see our team at the friendly confines at Best One Tire and Service of Bryan, located just north of town at the intersection of US 127 and State Route 15. Selling tires, serving people. Best One Tire and Service of Bryan.
Get ready for unbeatable deals on wheels at Darryl Shirkey Ford. Stop by Darryl Shirkey today and meet the go-to guy for all your automotive needs, Toby Shirkey. Whether you're looking for a sleek sedan, a rugged truck, or a family-friendly SUV, Toby has you covered. Toby's commitment to customer satisfaction is second to none. He's not just selling cars, he's building relationships. You can expect personal service and a stress-free buying experience. Don't miss out on the opportunity to drive home in the car of your dreams. Visit Toby Shirkey at Darryl Shirkey Ford in Montpelier today. Trust, transparency, and terrific deals. That's Toby Shirkey at Darryl Shirkey Ford.
Welcome back to Drop Time Winery and Tap House. We're with Jim Rosenhaus from the Cleveland Guardians Radio Network here on this Wednesday night. Always appreciate you making the trip out to see us. I guess I want to spin forward a little bit, Jim, and talk a little bit about thoughts on what's happened so far. I mean, everybody gets excited if things don't happen at the winter meetings or get worried and maybe a little panicked as we get into early January. Moves that have been made, and do you feel like Cleveland is done before we get to spring training? So I'll let you start there.
Well, they've actually been pretty active, and I think for a lot of fans it's been not the easiest offseason because 2 really good players have been traded away. They did get pitching in return, which was, I think, a goal in the offseason. We talked about starting pitching earlier, and they definitely want to increase the depth in the starting rotation and just try and get stronger in that area. So they were able to do that, but a pretty heavy cost. Some of it is just that continual balance of trying to manage payroll, keep your team as good as it was a year ago, and try and be in contention in the postseason so that you can get to a World Series and not have a 4 or 5 year rebuild, which you're never sure if you're going to come out of. So they've managed to do that going on more than a decade now. You go back to 2013, and the Guardians, believe it or not, have the 3rd most wins in all of baseball, behind only the Dodgers and the Yankees. So that's pretty impressive. So to your question, this offseason. They traded Andres Jimenez, Gold Glove second baseman, one of the best second basemen in the game, no question. But they do get back a really good starting pitcher from Pittsburgh named Luis Ortiz that will slot right in near the top of the starting rotation. They also traded Josh Naylor, and that's a tough one too. 30 home runs, 100 RBIs. His contract would have been up at the end of this season, so I think they're looking ahead, what's coming in terms of potential first baseman, and then also they got some pitching back as well from Arizona. So it's just constantly trying to thread that needle to stay relevant and hang around. And we saw a year ago they were about as close as you can get to being in the World Series without taking that major step back. And so they're hoping that others can fill those spots heading into the season, and we'll see.
Jim, do you anticipate more moves? It's January, 15th now?
Maybe, just because there's a ton of solid players still out there that have not signed. And as you get closer to spring training, they get a little bit more antsy and want to get in somewhere with the team. So I wouldn't put it past them to still add between now and not only in spring training, but the start of the season.
And especially pitchers. Because last year we saw Jordan Montgomery and Blake Snell get in really late, and how they didn't come around. Well, Jordan Montgomery never came around.
No.
Blake Snell, it was around the All-Star break with the Giants, basically.
Yeah, I think it's risky for a lot of players. For Snell, it worked out this offseason. But, it's a risk that you take as a player. Not going to spring training, I think, especially if you're a pitcher.
One of the questions we have from someone in our audience is thoughts on who may be the 5 starting pitchers moving forward.
Well, I think you can start with Tanner Bybee at the top, Gavin Williams, Luis Ortiz, the kid they got from Pittsburgh. And then after that, it's going to be interesting. I think there's some openings. I think Ben Lively will obviously be a contender again after really surprising a year ago and actually leading the staff in wins. So he'll be certainly slotting in there. Keep an eye on Tristan McKenzie. I know he had a bad year last year and spent most of it in the minor leagues, but I don't know. There's been some good reports coming out of where he trains in the offseason that he's fully healthy, and I think they're excited to see what he can do in the coming season. So I think that'd be a good 5 to start with, and there's some others in there too, but let's go with those 5. Okay.
When does Shane Bieber get healthy? When do they expect to have him ready?
That's the beauty of it. Shane Bieber re-signed with us, which was awesome. His contract was up at the end of the season. He had Tommy John surgery in April, which puts him on a target, should be mid-season. I don't know if he was ahead of schedule or not, but he actually was with the team quite a bit in the second half of the season and through the postseason, and had started his throwing programs and all of that. They're going to be very careful. They always are. He doesn't want to skip any steps on the way back, but I think it's fair to say mid-season for him. And maybe a great example is Matthew Boyd a year ago was coming back from Tommy John surgery and came back about mid-season with us and was a real key down the stretch. So I think you can look for the same from Bieber.
Okay. TV contract. What's the future of that right now?
Still no announcement. They will be on TV. MLB, for those who don't know, what had been Bally Sports is now FanDuel. Several teams in Major League Baseball who their umbrella, they went through bankruptcy proceedings, all that kind of stuff. Teams are trying to just basically recoup as much as they can from original TV contracts. It's a major revenue source. So you can either stay with them and accept what the bankruptcy court gives back to you, or whatever agreement you can make with them. They're still doing the Cavaliers, for instance. Or you can spin off and have Major League Baseball produce your games, and you can try and recoup it through sales from that. Either way, the revenue is not going to be what it should have been from the original contract. What it means for you, the viewer, it will be on. I don't know where. They're going to come out with an official announcement on that in the coming weeks, but it will be on. Most likely, the one model I've heard, just based on, I think the Padres are a team that's done it. Texas has already done it. If you have MLB Network, they just put it on a separate channel for you that pops up at game time, and away you go.
By the way, with the talking about media, Tom Hamilton, the Ford Frick Award winner this year, have you had a chance to catch up with him? What did that mean to him? I saw the clip that went viral of him kind of being a little, emotional about that.
Yeah.
It's a great thing. Talk about what something like that means in your industry.
So, Hammy, first of all, the beauty of for broadcasters, if you're elected to the Hall of Fame, and as Andy said, it's the Fort Frick Award, the broadcasters and writers wing of the Hall of Fame. Players, managers, they have to wait 5 years after they retire before they can even be considered. Broadcasters can still be working, so we now have a Hall of Fame broadcaster doing our games, which is tremendous. Hammy's back for his 36th season. It was December 11th, and he was notified around noon. He got the call from Cooperstown that he was going in and had been selected from a group of 10 finalists. And actually went over to his house later that afternoon, and we had a great time. I mean, he just was ecstatic and thankful, and everything you could imagine for that honor. I mean, it's the pinnacle, I think, for any major league broadcaster, and well deserved. I mean, he's been here since the early '90s, and I don't think he's hanging him up anytime soon. I mean, he still loves it. He's in great shape and enjoys the game as much as he ever has, and so that's great news. And it'll be a fun summer. It really will be. He'll go in at the end of July at the Hall of Fame ceremonies in Cooperstown.
That's awesome. Ballpark renovation. When will it be done? Target date? How many seats will it be now when we hit capacity?
Probably still in that 35,000 range that it's been, with a lot of that being standing room. The capacity won't change much. Show of hands, anybody have a chance to get down to the ballpark last year at all? So you saw that. I mean, the significant changes in the upper deck in right field and also left field. They'll finish what used to be the Terrace Club down the left field line, and most of it though is happening underneath. I actually was down there yesterday, and there's a lot going on. It's a construction site. They'll finish hopefully with the clubhouses in time for our home opener in early April. It's going to be close. It was kind of funny that, they had this renovation project going on that they started last year, and then they were going to complete this off season. Everyone wants to make the postseason, right? If you work for the ball club, if you're a fan of the team, you want to go to the playoffs and maybe go to the World Series. Everybody except the guys on the construction crew, because they literally were going to start right after the season ended. Well, son of a gun, they got pushed back a couple of weeks, and the head of construction, he said, you know what, if we're going to make the postseason, we might as well go ahead and win the World Series. Didn't quite get that far, but it did set them back a little bit. And inside story on that, so they're doing the clubhouse is the major part that they're doing this off season. So they wanted to start right after the last game. So we're in the postseason. My son works in the visiting clubhouse, and he said literally after the Yankees clinched in our ballpark, terrible night, but normally what they do if the visiting team clinches a title or any type of division title, pennant, whatever, they put the plastic up on the lockers to protect their clothes and all that kind of stuff, and they tell the teams, look, we know you're going to spray beer and champagne, just kind of rein it in a little bit if you can, because we got to use this again. Well, they told the Yankees we don't have to use it again because we're destroying it about 10 minutes after you leave. So do whatever you want. And they went wild. They were still there at 2:30 in the morning. My son got home at 6 because he said he walked in at one point and there was like that much standing champagne and water that couldn't soak through to the bottom anymore. And then they went to work, and the next day, I mean, those guys were at it the next day. So they apparently have caught up from the 2 weeks that they fell behind because of the postseason, and we should be good to go for the season. So what you would see, the main thing you would see would be the Terrace Club. They're not going to be able to finish all of the new seats. They've changed them over from that green to a dark blue that had, I think, maybe 10,000 a year ago, and they'll do another 10,000 this year, and then finish the actual seats next year. But there'll also be a new premium seating area behind home plate that they're going to finish in time for this season. It will look awesome. It really will. I think you'll really enjoy it.
What position is Angel Martinez going to play?
I would say he's a contender to be, he'll be in that mix to be the starting second baseman, I think. And I don't think you'll see him in the outfield anymore, just because I think they have enough outfielders at this point. But he certainly did okay in center field a year ago, but I think they'd prefer to have him on the infield. So maybe a little bit at third base to spell Jose every once in a while, but I think you'll see him get a real good chance to win the second base job in spring training.
Were you surprised? I mean, you knew you had to get somebody that it was, once Naylor got traded, that it was Carlos Santana for a third stint.
Awesome. Tremendous. One of the great guys in the game. And coming off one of his best years at this stage of his career where he's pushing 40. And it's unusual that someone would come back a third time to a different team. But I saw him last season with the Twins. I was visiting with him before a game, and he said, I'm telling you, I'm going to come back and play for Cleveland again. Maybe finish my career with Cleveland. I think he was hoping to get back last year because he saw how well the team was going. He's pretty tight with Jose Ramirez, but he's ecstatic to be back. It's kind of funny. He had kept his house just outside of downtown and would rent it out to different players while he was with other teams. And I guess he didn't think it was possible that he was coming back this year because he literally sold his house like 3 days before we signed him. So I don't know. Maybe they can cancel the contracts and he can buy it back from whoever bought it. But he's ecstatic to be back. I don't know what the trade-off is for him and Naylor, but I think you'll see a combination of him. Kyle Manzardo's going to get a lot of time there too, and he was impressive a year ago, especially the last time he came up, the last month of the season and the postseason. He played really well. And don't be surprised if John Kenzie Noel doesn't see some time there too. So I think they'll piece it together. The beauty of Santana, he's coming off a Gold Glove season. It's the first time he's won a Gold Glove. And he said, number one, he wasn't going to play last year, but his kids are old enough now where I guess they sat him down and they said, Dad, we know what you do. You got to keep playing for us. So he came back and kept playing, and now he wants to play another couple of years. But he also, I guess he promised his mom, I'm going to win a Gold Glove this year for you. He had her name printed on his glove. You know how they have the autographs on the gloves? He had her name printed on the glove, and he won the Gold Glove last year at first base, which is saying a lot. When you consider he came up with us initially as a catcher, and it went just okay. And they moved him to third base, and that was not good. Overthrows, throws in the dirt, it just wasn't working. And when he went to first base, it took a little bit for him to get going, but in 2016, the World Series year, when Mike Napoli was here, he would take him out early every day, and they worked at first base, and he became a Gold Glove first baseman at this stage of his career, which is a great story. So he'll be great to have back.
Yeah, that is a great story. Got to step aside, take another break. We have more. If anybody has any other questions, we have paper up here for you to come jot down. Also, if you haven't signed up, if you're here, we're giving away a $100 gift card to Best One Tire and Service in Bryan. So much more to come with Jim Rosenhaus as we roll on from Drop Tine in Montpelier on B-Rock.
Looking for top quality meat? Jacob's Meats on State Route 66 just north of Defiance has you covered. From juicy hamburgers to tender steaks, they've got it all. Plus, they offer quarters and sides of premium Angus beef processed exactly the way you like it. Stop by Jacob's Meats today for the finest cuts and unbeatable quality. And hey, they're hiring. If you're looking for a job with a friendly team, they're seeking counter help now. Jacob's Meats, quality you can taste, just north of Defiance on State Route 66.
D&M Tire and Service in Bryan understands that your vehicle maintenance is an investment. That's why D&M employs only ASE certified technicians that understand how to diagnose and fix the problem right the first time. D&M is so confident in their service of your vehicle, they offer a 24-month, 24,000-mile warranty of their work. Now that's service you can trust. Find them on the web at dnmtireandservicecenter.com or call today to set up your appointment. 419-636-9848. D&M Tire and Service on Mulberry Street in Bryan.
Are you a home buyer in the Hicksville area? If so, then you better give Misty King of Amerimaid Realty a call today and ask about her new listing located at 321 West High Street. This stunning Yoder-built home is full of elegance and modern rustic charm, featuring 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, high ceilings, a large open kitchen with granite countertops, and immaculate landscaping. There's even a shed with small workshop and a covered patio. This is one you must see. Phone Misty King and the Amerimaid Realty team today at 419-633-4997. Misty King of Amerimaid Realty, your hometown real estate pro.
At Brian Ford, we have a nice selection of local trade-ins, most of them with just one previous owner. Our inventory includes many vehicles priced under $20,000. Brian Ford just traded for 3 2021 Ford Edges. All are one owner, very well equipped, and priced from $24,000. With interest rates falling, it's a great time to buy a pre-owned vehicle. And we didn't forget our new vehicles. With rebates to $5,000 combined with generous discounts and low interest rates, it's a great time to buy new or used. At Brian Ford, we will not be undersold. You have my word on it.
Because I'm that.
We're back at Drop Time Winery and Tap House, one of our sponsors tonight, along with Brian Ford Lincoln, Maddox Men's Emporium, Amerimaid Realty, D&M Tire and Service, Best One Tire and Service, Jacob's Meats, and Toby Shirkey from Darrow Shirkey here in Montpelier. When will Travis Bazzana be called up? What are those expectations? That's part one of this question.
July 3rd. How's that?
Okay.
No, I don't know. I have no idea. Travis Bazzana, for fans who don't know, the Guardians, for the first time in franchise history, they had the first overall pick in the amateur draft a year ago, and they used it on a second baseman out of Oregon State, Travis Bazzana. So he's working his way through last year, played for High A, Lake County, a playoff team, so he got to go through a postseason with them. I think he starts this year at Double A, from what I'm hearing. I'll guarantee you he gets a little bit of a look in Major League Camp. He doesn't have an invite to Major League Camp, but he'll play in games, I would think. I think he starts at Double A, and they'll see what happens. If he has a hot start and moves quickly, probably we'll see some time at Triple A. But if there's a need and no one's really grabbing the second base job and he's having a good year, maybe mid-season start to keep an eye out, and maybe he gets a chance in the second half.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any worry or worries? What are the worries? Maybe is a good way of asking it, about the youth that Kansas City has.
Absolutely. And you know what, though, for the Royals, they have good young talent, absolutely. But I think some of their veteran signings a year ago were what was really helpful for them, especially starting pitching-wise. Seth Lugo was tremendous, a Cy Young candidate. Michael Wacha, who re-signed an extension with them, good veteran pitcher. So they made some good signs of veterans to complement one of the best young players in the game in Bobby Witt Jr. They'll be a contender again. I think that there's no reason to think the division won't be as competitive as it was a year ago, because I think the Royals will be good, I think the Tigers will be good again, and I think the Guardians will be good again as well.
Do you think losing Josh Naylor, how much do you think losing Josh Naylor will hurt the club? Where will be some of the hurt? You mentioned the production, but maybe something that we don't see.
You know what? A little bit in the clubhouse for sure. He had been here long enough, and it's going to sound silly because he has some of the most dramatic outbursts on the field of emotion, but he's kind of a quiet leader in that clubhouse, and he's not afraid to call out a teammate if they're not, if there's hustle issues or things like that, or just the way you play the game. And he was one of those guys who, on the road, would get the guys together as a team to go out to dinner and just, do some team bonding stuff. And, if we had a Sunday day game at home, hey, I'm having a cookout at my place tonight, have some of the guys come over, stuff like that. It matters. I think good teams do stuff together, not all the time, but enough where they get to know each other and it's helpful over the course of a long season. So hopefully someone else picks that up, but they'll miss him. He's a good guy, and I'll be fascinated to see how his brother Bo handles things.
That's my
with
next question.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. But it may be it may be a positive for Bo just to kind of be able to do his own thing. But I know he'll miss having his brother around. He said last year he had those ups and downs of a young player in the big leagues. And he said that the player, coach, manager who helped him the most was his brother. Like, he could always go to his brother and just run stuff by him and get that assurance that he belonged in the big leagues and that it's okay to fail in the big leagues because you do it all. Everybody does it. And you got to get through it, and he would get through it because he certainly has the talent.
That question about Bo Naylor was, do you expect him to be the starting catcher?
Absolutely. He'll be your frontline catcher. They have Austin Hedges back, which I think is just a really good tandem to help Bo develop. But I think so. He showed flashes a year ago, and we'll see if having that full season under his belt helps.
With the bullpen being such a strength and a nature of the beast also, as we briefly touched on with Major League Baseball and where it's going, will we see more bullpen games?
I don't think per se, but I think it's fair to say if a starter's struggling early, the leash that they have is a lot less, I think, in today's game. It used to be, if a guy gave up 3 or 4 runs in the first couple of innings, he's got to get us through 5 to save the bullpen. And, just plow through, and if you give up 6 or 7, well, so it goes, and we just got to keep you out there and save the pen and that kind of stuff. You're seeing that less and less. So I don't think you'll see openers per se, but I think you'll continue to see less patience with starters if they struggle.
After the trades that were made, this person out in our audience wants to know, how do you go to somebody like Jose Ramirez and tell them, hey, with what we just dealt, we're closer to going to the World Series because we've lost some locker room people and good players?
I think that's fair. I think that's a fair question, and I'm sure it's something that the front office, if they haven't talked to him about already, would. I think when he signed here long-term, and he signed through close to, I think it's 2028, maybe more. I think he did so with the knowledge that this is how our franchise has to operate. It's not always easy, but I think if they hadn't brought in Carlos Santana, it would have been a tougher one to swallow when they traded Josh Naylor, but I think that helps. And, losing Jimenez hurts absolutely defensively, but I think they're excited to see in the short term on Angel Martinez. We talked about Juan Brito is another one who's going to get a real chance to win that job. He's been doing good work at AAA Columbus a year ago, and I think they're excited about the future for Travis Bazzana, the number 1 draft pick of a year ago. So while it may be tricky early in the season, I think they're excited about where it could end up at the end.
And overall, I guess I'll let you talk a little bit more in depth about it. Names, no names, but just the status right now of the farm system, which is in really good shape.
It's tremendous. It's
top
been
3 or 5 in baseball.
Yes, it's been producing players at the major league level. If you go back, 2022 was very similar to last year, where it was a young team and nobody expected much, and they ended up going to the postseason. And they did so, I think it was 17 different players made their major league debut, which is unheard of for a postseason team. Usually that's a team that loses 100 games. But there's, whether it's position players or pitchers, it sometimes can run in cycles, where there's more depth there. But it's been producing. And last year it produced the bullpen. In spring training, I remember early on, Trevor Stephan went down with Tommy John surgery. James Karinchak went down with a sore shoulder. Sam Hentges went down with, I think, a finger issue. And this was early in spring training. I remember we were doing a game and talking about it with Tom. We were like, my goodness, what are they going to do with the pen? And it turns out this Cade Smith came out of nowhere, had a good year in the farm system the year before, and became one of the best rookie relievers in baseball. Hunter Gaddis had been a starter with middling results, and he became a dominant back-end relief pitcher. And they had other young pitchers doing a great job out of the pen. So they're very confident in what they're producing in the farm system. And I think that's why, yes, I'm sure initially when Jose would have seen those trades, it probably was not easy. but I think he's been around long enough in this organization, himself included, to know that they produce some really good talent that makes an impact at the major league level.
We're going to take one final break. Last call for questions, last call for sign-up. We'll have that draw before we are done. But one final break and some final thoughts with Jim Rosenhaus from Drop Time Winery and Tap House on a Wednesday night here on B-Rock.
The Maddox Men's Emporium is the go-to place in Northwest Ohio for men's apparel and accessories, as well as specialty foods and barware. They feature items like cocktail bitters and drink mixers, cocktail smokers, barbecue sauces, hot sauces, and dry rubs, plus Bloody Mary mixes and margarita mixes. They also have game day items from some of your favorite Big Ten teams. And if you want the best men's apparel around, the Maddox has Task Bamboo Wear, Johnston and Murphy Clothing and shoes, Liverpool jeans, Devil Dog, FX Fusion, Jeep brand, and more. If you haven't been to the Maddox Men's Emporium yet, then stop by at 123 South Main Street in downtown Bryan and see what you've been missing.
D&M Tire and Service in Bryan understands that your vehicle maintenance is an investment. That's why D&M employs only ASE certified technicians that understand how to diagnose and fix the problem right the first time. D&M is so confident in their service of your vehicle, they offer a 24-month, 24,000-mile warranty of their work. Now that's service you can trust. Find them on the web at dnmtireandservicecenter.com or call today to set up your appointment. 419-636-9848. D&M Tire and Service on Mulberry Street in Bryan.
Get ready for unbeatable deals on wheels at Darryl Shirkey Ford. Stop by Darryl Shirkey today and meet the go-to guy for all your automotive needs, Toby Shirkey. Whether you're looking for a sleek sedan, a rugged truck, or a family-friendly SUV, Toby has you covered. Toby's commitment to customer satisfaction is second to none. He's not just selling cars, he's building relationships. You can expect personal service and a stress-free buying experience. Don't miss out on the opportunity to drive home in the car of your dreams. Visit Toby Shirkey at Darryl Shirkey Ford in Montpelier today. Trust, transparency, and terrific deals. That's Toby Shirkey at Darryl Shirkey Ford.
Best One Tire and Service of Bryan has an experienced, knowledgeable team just like the Cleveland Guardians. Whether it's tires or mechanical work for your commercial, passenger, or light truck vehicle, we're the team that always hits a home run. We can even score with tires for your ag or OTR applications. Come see our team at the friendly confines at Best One Tire and Service of Bryan, located just north of town at the intersection of US 127 and State Route 15. Selling tires, serving people. Best One Tire and Service of Bryan.
Does your 2025 New Year's resolution include shopping for a new home in the Bryan area? If so, then call Misty King of Amerimaid Realty and ask for a list of all of the available homes, including her new listing at 1226 Bel Air Avenue in Bryan. This beautiful one-story home has a contemporary open floor plan, modern kitchen, spacious rooms, and wide hallways. And the primary bathroom offers a step-in shower. Want to know another cool feature? This one has a wonderful water view of the neighboring pond, which offers some peace and tranquility on your back patio. If this sounds like a home for you, phone Misty King at 419-633-4997. Misty King of Amerimaid Realty, your hometown real estate pro.
At Bryan Ford, we have a nice selection of local trade-ins, most of them with just one previous owner. Our inventory includes many vehicles priced under $20,000. Bryan Ford just traded for 3 2021 Ford Edges. All are one owner, very well equipped, and priced from $24,000. With interest rates falling, it's a great time to buy a pre-owned vehicle. And we didn't forget our new vehicles. With rebates to $5,000, combined with generous discounts and low interest rates, it's a great time to buy new or used. At Bryan Ford, we will not be undersold. You have my word on it.
Looking for top quality meat? Jacob's Meats on State Route 66 just north of Defiance has you covered. From juicy hamburgers to tender steaks, they've got it all. Plus they offer quarters and sides of premium Angus beef processed exactly the way you like it. Stop by Jacob's Meats today for the finest cuts and unbeatable quality. And hey, they're hiring. If you're looking for a job with a friendly team, they're seeking counter help now. Jacob's Meats, quality you can taste, just north of Defiance on State Route 66.
Oh, he did a good job last year.
Back out here for our final segment at Drop Time Winery and Tap House with Jim Rosenhaus from the Cleveland Guardians Radio Network. All right, Jim, this question is going to ask you to kind of put your prediction hat on. How many wins is it going to take to win the AL Central?
All right, I'm going to go, it took 92 last year. That's what the Guardians had at the end. But I think everyone's going to beat each other up. I think it's going to be close. I'm going to go with 90. I think 90 wins it just because, I mean, the division games are going to be toss-up games. And you say, well, wait, won't they load up against the White Sox? The White Sox literally had the worst season in baseball history last year. They lost more games than anybody ever had. But the Guardians had a devil of a time with Chicago. They had a hard time beating the White Sox, so you just never know. But I'll go 90. How's
okay.
That? Yeah.
This is a personal question.
Are you writing that down so when we come back next year?
It's being recorded, so we'll have it. As you know, it lasts forever. Yeah. Walk us through a typical game day for you, and also part of that is what's your prep time look like, when do you get to the park, all of that.
All right, so for a 7 o'clock game, usually about 2 o'clock, we'll get there, and a lot, but in the morning you're reading up on the teams, doing any research that maybe something happened the night before that was interesting, trying to just keep up with other teams too, so you have stuff to talk about, trying to find something that would be interesting that maybe just reading the general papers and box scores you wouldn't know. But really the biggest key is we get there, I get to do an interview with usually a player or a coach, somebody from either our team or the other team, and Tom will do the manager. But our biggest key is anyone in this room can, with the internet now, you can find out so much about players, coaches, teams. But the one thing you can't do is go into the clubhouse and talk to guys. So that's our job. We'll go downstairs and I'll talk to Bo Naylor. Hey, Bo, what are you working on that's really been a challenge or whatever, or if they did something fun the night before, or if we're in Toronto, that's just outside Bo's hometown, what were some of the things you like to do growing up, and what does it mean to come back and play against the Blue Jays and stuff like that. So that's our time when the clubhouse is open, usually right around batting practice time, which would be 4:30, 5 o'clock. You're down on the field, you might hear guys telling stories or telling jokes or whatever, and it leads to something that maybe we can bring into the broadcast that night. So that's big. Then you usually get upstairs around 5:30, fill out your lineup cards with all the notes that you want. You try and write down as much as you can so that it's easy to find when the game gets going, because sometimes it's hard to find that if you're doing the game. And then the pregame show starts at 6:30, and the game starts at 7:10, and away we go.
Are you a fan of the 6 o'clock starts?
Love them. You get home at a reasonable hour, and I think for kids early in the season, it gives them a chance to go to a game on a school night. Yeah, I like them.
And the last one that was on that sheet is your favorite road stadium.
Favorite road stadium, man, they're all good. And it's funny, everyone says, what's your favorite one? Obviously, Fenway Park and Wrigley are fun. I like the old Yankee Stadium more than the new one. Of the ones that I had never been to, Seattle's awesome. Just because it's kind of cool. I mean, they got the retractable roof, and we were there actually one day where they started the game with the roof open. It started raining. 5 minutes, the roof's closed, and you just keep playing. And it's just kind of cool, the setting there and all that. San Francisco's awesome. I still love our park the best. I'm biased. There's nothing better than a big game at our park. It literally shakes when big things happen. And this year, the game where John Kenzie Noel hit the pinch hit home run against the Yankees that tied it in the ninth with 2 outs, and then Fry hit the game winner. I mean, you almost needed a seatbelt to stay strapped in the press box because it was swaying. So that's been fun. But everyone said, well, what are the bad ones? There are no bad big league ballparks. There's just not. There's some that aren't as nice or whatever. But even Oakland, which is no more, I'm sad for that. It was a dump. Like the old Oakland Coliseum was old. They didn't keep it up. But it was great because it smelled like beer from the early 70s when Reggie Jackson played for them. I still don't think they cleaned it up. The fans were surly. They would introduce the umpires before the game. Tim Welke at home plate, and everyone would say, "Oh no!" And then they'd announce the next guy, and they'd all say, "Not him!" And like in unison. And I mean, they had it down. So it was always a fun place to go. I guess if you worked there all the time, it was challenging, but we only went 3 times a year.
Did you ever encounter wildlife there? That's what I heard about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, in the box.
A possum in our booth.
Yeah.
We did not see him, but the team that was in before us, I think the Mets were in before us, and they had an incident. So, yes, we were looking over our shoulder the whole game. Favorite Oakland Coliseum story, Michael Brantley's playing left field. There's a fly ball heading his way. All of a sudden, bam! There's an explosion. It sounded either like gunshots or a bomb, a mixture of the two. And he ducked, made the catch, and nobody really knew what happened until on the bus back to the hotel, leaving through the parking lot, there were 2 just cars that were burnt out. And we found out the next day, apparently, the tailgating there was tremendous. They had this huge parking lot, and tailgating was big for the fans that came. And apparently a guy, old school, not propane, they used the charcoal, and he game starts, puts the grill back in his car, and it had not burned out yet. And I guess throughout the game, it just got worse and worse and finally blew up his car. And the poor guy next to him, his car was totaled too. But we drove by and you could see just this charred vehicle, and that's what the explosion was. And only at the Oakland Coliseum could that happen.
A general baseball question, and maybe this can be part your opinion, part the coaching staff, pitching coaches and stuff. There's a lot of talk about all the arm injuries right now. And a lot of it is, and I don't think personally we have enough data points to say it's a pitch clock thing. That's being thrown out there right now. Is there, in your opinion, validity to that? And if it's not that, what could it be? What is it?
I'm going to say no to the pitch clock thing because back in the 70s with the Gaylord Perrys and even closer than that, Greg Maddux, these guys worked fast, probably way faster than the pitch clock. They didn't get hurt. I think it's a byproduct of most pitchers chase velocity, and they're encouraged to do so because it usually higher velocity leads to more strikeouts, and that's the way the game they've been encouraged to do that. The more strikeouts you have, there's less chance for a fielder to make an error. That's the bottom line. So analytics says the more strikeouts you have, the better off you are. What leads to more strikeouts? Guys who throw 100. And it filters down to younger levels where to get noticed, you have to throw harder. And I think the increase in velocity, it's just arms aren't made for it. A guy, again, I'll go back to Greg Maddux, did not throw that hard and stayed healthy because they pitched and they still got outs. So, I don't know what the answer is because they're not going to tell guys to throw softer. They're just not. There has been talk about rewarding pitchers who go deeper into games and penalizing teams for starting pitchers that don't pitch, say, 5 innings, maybe tying it to the DH. If you don't pitch 5 innings, you lose your DH for the rest of the game. I don't know what the answer is, but in my opinion, it's the amount of velocity and the age at which kids are being asked to throw hard and trying to throw hard that leads to injuries down the road.
That's one possible rules change. Are we going to see, there's talk of the golden batter? Tell everybody who hasn't heard about this what it is and if it's real.
I should know more about it, but I saw the headline and I couldn't read it anymore.
I couldn't either.
I think what they were proposing was that if you're in the 9th inning and you're the Dodgers and you want Ohtani to bat and it's not his time in the order, you could still have him bat.
And you can do it once.
Yes. Baloney.
Yeah.
That, to me, the good teams, like what makes the Dodgers good, 1 through 9. You can't. I don't like it at all, and I hope it never happens. Maybe it will, but I hope not.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Jim, always great having you. Can you do one last thing for us?
Absolutely. Who are you?
This is a $100 gift card to Best One Tire and Service in Bryan. You gonna take a shot at it?
Jason begins with a B. I can't read the rest. Can you read that?
It is a B. I don't think it's Jason Bloor. There's a Jason B here, but I don't know. Is there another J? Congratulations.
I'm sorry. What's your last name?
Berman.
Berman.
There you go. $100 gift card. Thanks for coming out. Thanks to everybody for coming out tonight. Any last thoughts, Jim, on Guardians as we get ready to break camp? Maybe give us that information.
Just thanks for coming. February 11th, pitchers and catchers report. February 18th is the first full squad workout, and our first game broadcast is that Saturday, which I believe is the 22nd, when we will play the Terry Francona-led Cincinnati Reds in Goodyear. So it'll be here before you know it, and on nights like this and weeks like next week they're talking about, man, we need some good warm weather stuff.
Can we give Jim a round of applause for making the trip out here? Thank you, Jim. Always a pleasure. Also, big thanks to Corey and Terry Humbarger at Drop Tide Winery and Tap House for hosting us. Brian Ford Lincoln, Maddox Men's Emporium, Amerimaid Realty, Jacobs Meats, Best One Tire, Toby Shirkey from Darrow Shirkey, and D&M Tire and Service. That's going to do it for us tonight. Thanks again for being with us here. And the opening day is March 28th, 29th?
No, before that, I think. 27th, I think?
Join us in late March. The Guardians will be on B-Rock again. More rock on the way now here. Have a great rest of your Wednesday.